Dracula, the Deluxe Diversity Inclusion version. Gatiss and Moffat go for woke broke. This recent adaptation of the Bram Stoker classic epitomises everything that is wrong with the 21st century BBC. A classic gothic horror is subverted and becomes a tedious exercise in box checking for diversity, inclusion and cultural Marxist propaganda. Van Helsing becomes a nun. Dracula becomes a charismatic, albeit deformed version of Matt Smith's interpretation of the Doctor from Doctor Who. What we have essentially, including the very annoying flashback narrative structure, is a kind of bastardised version of the Sherlock television series which Gatiss and Moffat created. Watching this Dracula version, I came to the conclusion that both men have now played themselves out. They are exhausted of ideas and are really nothing more than diversity propagandists. Hopefully this is their swan song. The first episode starts promisingly and is true to the novel. However, it is not long before Van Helsing the nun is introduced as a kind of know-it-all, clever clogs character who is like a sort of a Sherlock. We then move on to episode 2, where aboard the Demeter, the ship which transports Dracula to Britain, we have a motley collection of aristocrats, misfits, and we have a gay black man who is the only logical member of the crew who is not hidebound by superstition. However, this does not save him from being murdered, thankfully. The nun Van Helsing sacrifices her life, and Dracula falls to the bottom of the sea. Then Dracula bursts out of his coffin, walks along the seabed, and ends up in Whitby. However, this is a Whitby in 2019, which was quite a good twist, about the only good twist in the entire thing. He then roams around Whitby in a very wasteful way, and the idea of putting Dracula in the 21st century is ruined. He's interned in a medical facility by Van Helsing's great-great-granddaughter. She still has the surname for some reason. That's not explained. Any possibility that Dracula might be then vivisected in order to discover the secret of his immortality is spoiled, because the character played by Mark Gatiss comes in acting as a lawyer for Dracula, and Dracula is able to leave the Institute, which is a complete waste of time. So we have a great premise set up, and then that's just thrown out of the window for a cheap gag. And Dracula goes to London and enthralls a half-caste chubby girl who seems to think she's very attractive, even though she isn't. She's just a sparkly dressed slut. He murders a few people, and then he infects this girl, and she becomes his bride-to-be. Unfortunately, her parents have her cremated, and then she, because she's undead, she is resurrected as a kind of deformed, extremely burned corpse vampire. But she wasn't really deformed enough really to be horrifying. She just looked like somebody who'd been messing about in a mud bath for too long. And then Van Helsing turns up, and this other gay boy is a complete wet blanket, and they go to see Dracula in his apartment, and then they find out that he's actually immune to sunlight. It's just in his own mind, and the reason why he hates the cross is because it actually just reminds him that he's a coward who doesn't want to die. And then Van Helsing says she's got cancer, and then Dracula saves her life. No, actually he doesn't. Then Dracula decides to die by gorging himself on her cancer-riddled blood, and that's how it ends, with Dracula and Miss Van Helsing dead in this apartment. And that's it. You know, it's a complete waste of time. If you haven't seen it, don't bother to see it. If you do want to see a good BBC adaptation, it has some 1970, I think 77, 78 adaptation of Dracula by the BBC, starring Frank Langella.
and that's actually a very good adaptation which sticks to the book. So if you can track that down on YouTube or on DVD, by all means watch that and enjoy it, but don't watch this. It's a waste of fucking time.